Hello everyone, welcome to Your World or Mine. Show me yours and I'll show you mine. And today I have beautiful Hannelie here. And I can just tell you in this moment, my body's tingling. So that's usually for me a sign something amazing is going to happen here today. So welcome, Hannelie.
Oh, thank you, Hannelie. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. Thank you for inviting me to speak with you.
Yeah, I'm really curious about what will emerge here today. You know, these experiences are never preconceived. They happen spontaneously. And I'm really curious about what's happening in your world currently.
Hannelie, I like that as the first question because it is a very interesting time for me. I have been involved with Humanities Team since 2005 as a volunteer, and I'll never forget the day that I started out with Humanities Team. It was a massive call for me. I had read Tomorrow's God by Neil Donald Walsh, in which he calls, he shares that he had this dream that someday that there would be a team for humanity, and I just knew that I had to be on that team. Anyway, I also felt at that time that it was a calling that was much bigger than me. I was so scared, but I could not resist pressing that button and saying, yes, I want to do that. And it has been the most incredible journey. I cannot begin to tell you, obviously, it's all, we do things for ourselves in the first place when we really look closely. We do things because we feel called. And my personal growth has been tremendous. It's just been incredible. And I've been so since 2005, it's now 2018. And since I started with Humanities Team in 2005, so our core principle in Humanities Team is we are all one. I knew that if we were going to look at the concept of oneness and seeing that we are a team for humanity, there's no ways we can go about this and not ask, so what does oneness mean? And what does it mean to be a human being if we don't ask that from the African perspective? And I've already known that, there was this beautiful concept of Ubuntu. And I knew that, when we speak about oneness, when we speak what it means to be human, in Africa, this concept of Ubuntu speaks to it so powerfully. So since the right in the beginning, we have been, when we speak about that, we've been talking about Ubuntu. So we've been doing lots of advocacy work, and I know that you've been following what we're doing and so on. So it has brought me to a point in time where I'm branching out more into my own. So I'm still involved with Humanities Team on a South African level and on a global level, but I'm really, owning my role in Ubuntu in a new way. So it's very exciting. It is scary because I'm asking myself, so even though I've built this audience around me, is there really anybody who's interested in Ubuntu? Who really wants Ubuntu? Do people even really want to hear about Ubuntu? So it's exciting and it's also very scary. And that's my world. This is where I am right now.
It's very interesting what's happening with my body. As you're sharing, I cannot even explain in words yet because it's in my legs, it's tingling, but in my heart space, it's just like when you spoke. Oh. But what moreover, I saw the most beautiful tree.
Oh, wow.
And this tree has a very interesting shape. I haven't really seen something like that here on Earth yet. I'm a nature nymph myself.
Now I'm tingling all over.
And it's it's even affecting my voice. It's most beautiful. Sure. But what I wanted to ask you, I was curious about what you shared. There are two things, and let's go to the first one first. When you speak about Ubuntu, in my experience, many people use that word randomly. And it's beginning to, for me personally now speaking, to ask the questions, do people really understand what it's about? Everybody speaks about it. They might have the aspirations, which is most beautiful. Nothing wrong with any of these.
Absolutely.
But it does take me to the core essence of what is Ubuntu. And for me, it's easy for us to speak about things, to talk about it.
Yes.
But to have experienced yourself, for me, is something completely different.
Absolutely.
And it's wonderful. I do see in my own life, and wherever I go across the globe, and wherever I speak with and engage with, the aspiration is definitely there. The about part is definitely present, but it's the true, authentic experience of it that I see is not emerging yet necessarily in the way we might aspire that it might emerge. But it's wonderful that people speak about, or that by itself is a gift. But what to you is Ubuntu? Because for you it's an experiential thing. You are it, you live it every day. And I'm really curious and interested to hear what that feels like, firstly. And then what is to share, what's your experience, or what is it?
Yeah, I love that question. And you know what, it takes me back to when I really got involved with Ubuntu, what I, you know, obviously one first wants to understand it from an intellectual perspective. But what actually happened is in 2002, my husband and I, we did the most incredible personal transformation process here in Johannesburg. And part of that process was, at the time, I battled to find, you know, a word to explain it. But it was almost, now I explain it as having had an initiation. We have the opportunity to experience oneness or nothingness. And the more I got to learn about Ubuntu, the more I knew, oh my God, you know what, at the core, this Ubuntu this is the oneness. But obviously, again, it's, you know, language, there's no language for oneness. So language disappears somewhere. But if I have to explain it, and also that led me on a most incredible journey of researching into Ubuntu. So I completed my degree in psychology, and part of that was studies of the different religions of the world, and also African worldview. So on an intellectual way, you know, I've dealt a lot with Ubuntu. But also my research into Ubuntu, also the intellectual, the part of that, and also going into the ancient African cosmology confirms that Ubuntu is about love. You know that you're in Ubuntu when you are in love, when you are in the shoes of the other, when you know that the other, there is no other. The only way that you can know yourself is to see yourself and experience yourself as the other. So you can have true love and true compassion for another. That is my experience of oneness, feeling totally at one with the other, even though that would be another expression of who I am. But I can see that, you know, even if a person, you know, does the most horrific thing, I can see that that person, also aspects of that is also who I am.
You know, as I allow that just to sit with me, and what you just shared so beautifully, it brings me to something that I've been experiencing in terms of love, as universal love, as we speak about love, and the kind of love you're speaking about. It's, for me, it's the recognition of being.
Yeah.
And when we go beyond all the wounded parts of ourselves in the other and in our own lives, then we become to the being part, the true being. And when you shared about your personal development experience, I had a very similar experience also many, many moons ago here in Johannesburg as well. And it might have even been the same journey. But when you're in that space, it's impossible to hate, to be intolerant, to judge, to do horrible things to others. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. Absolutely. And I think for me, we're still human. We do things daily.
Of course.
And the only way for me to become back to my own resonance is when I dip into that experience that I also had so many moons ago. And it brings me straight up into that feeling of oneness that you say. especially if I'm triggered by somebody else and I go off balance. But it's wonderful when you share about it that oneness is not necessarily sameness.
Exactly.
We are such unique expressions. You also used the word expressions earlier. We are such unique expressions. And that's for me the beauty in the diversity.
Absolutely.
That we can start recognizing, yeah, and that we can start recognizing its place. Everything has its place in the world. And it's through that, and I think people also use Ubuntu and diversity in the same language, you know, the same sentence.
Yes.
And then to really understand how can I be with another by recognizing them as a being first and not through my filters and my own woundings, and me only looking and identifying more with their wounded parts. But when we just have that intention, magic starts to happen.
I love what you're saying. I love what you're saying, Hannelie. So my favorite way of explaining Ubuntu, and I've just launched it. I'm just announcing it now. My new new website called Ubuntu Civics Academy. And some of the first words that I use on there is that Ubuntu is a consciousness and a way of being. That is where it starts. It's a consciousness and a way of being. But there, again, when you look at that, you realize what I also did to understand Ubuntu is I wanted to know when you take the word itself, because language is such a powerful thing, what does the word Ubuntu mean in itself? So I went and I researched that, and when you dissect the word, Ubu means to become, and Muntu is an African root word that stands for ultimate being, highest potential. So Ubuntu points to a person, but we know in this cosmology or this African perspective, a person is never separate from the cosmos. So a person is a person as part of the universe, is in a process of becoming its highest potential. Now, if people understand those beautiful things about Ubuntu, you get the depth of it, where, it could no longer only be the name of another business or a slogan or a word that's used from a podium. It's not it's just the most, Ubuntu contains, for me, it's the most all-encompassing consciousness that we could have. I'm absolutely in love with Ubuntu. It's really all we need to know if we want to know who we are, if we want to reach our highest potential, if we want to find the answers to our common challenges. It's all in Ubuntu. It's all there. It's an incredible thing.
And the words that came up for me as you were sharing that was all that is. And if we take it to a very deep personal level, is to have the understanding, so it's mental, but also physical and emotional, and spiritual, that we are held by all that is.
Yes.
Because I see humans, especially on the African continent, but also elsewhere, not only here, the need to be held, to feel that they are held, especially our younger generations, in this very complex, traumatic, chaotic world, where things change rapidly, just every second, things change. It's to have that understanding on all the levels that you are held by all that is. That for me is Ubuntu too, just expressed in a different way. And when you really allow yourself to just say this affirmation early in the morning, I am held by all that is.
Yeah,
your day turns out very, very different from when you don't do it. And because you are commanding the universe, not demanding, but you're commanding the universe, that I know that you're holding me.
Absolutely.
And then if I go through my day and I come across somebody who might treat me badly or react to me in a very interesting way, to realize, but all that is. I was just sharing earlier today, I'm held by all that is. So just to have the understanding that this person cannot hurt me, no matter what they do. So I don't have to judge them.
Exactly. Exactly, because it points to, if we say that all of life is in the process of becoming, how can you not honor Because, you know, if I want to be honored for my place in my process now, how can I not honor another person in their process? I'm so happy about is to know that Africa does not shy away. You know, we've got our African spirituality that is so ancient, confirms all of this that we, you know, that we learn out in the world. So just incredible.
And what do you think will happen? And I'm very curious about this myself on a personal level. What will begin to happen in terms of Ubuntu on a global level when we even stop to speak about a European perspective or European reality or African reality or American reality? When we begin to speak from a consciousness level about humanity as such, and specific areas of wisdom, where we speak of it as humanity's wisdom instead of the, you know, the boundary thing that we create.
I hear you. Yes.
I was just always very curious about what will happen when we begin just that process, because people will feel inclusive. Because when the moment when somebody, in my own experience, starts speaking about a European Renaissance, for example.
Yes.
I asked, but what about the whole, I'm also part of that Renaissance. I'm part of this cosmology at this moment in time, which has no separation.
Exactly.
So I was just wondering what will happen.
No, so, I mean, this, even though we speak about an African worldview, what we're really saying is that this African worldview is a universal worldview, although in Ubuntu, it is lived very uniquely. So when you go to the villages, you'll find, you know, what they are specific practices that confirms that the people who, as Archbishop Desmond Tutu would say, wow, that person has Ubuntu, there goes a person of Ubuntu. It's because you recognize it through their way of being. There are specific cultural practices that makes you recognize, you know, for it to be alive. But in the end, you know, it's universal. So you'll have it. I know I came across and I can't remember. I think it's called Higi. It's also a way of living in Denmark, for example. So when you go to the different countries, you'll say, okay, you can see, wow, in this country they also have it. Maybe they won't even have a name for it. So in South Africa, or in Africa, we have the word Ubuntu. In many places of the world, I know that we've had this challenge in Humanities Team. Some people would say, we can't use this word, you know, we're saying that this is an operating principle in Humanities Team, but you know, I can't remember which countries you know, these were specifically, but it was very difficult for some country coordinators because they said, we don't have a word, we don't have a concept oneness, we don't speak about oneness. You know, we speak about unity, or, you know, things like that. So, and I like that. I think to grapple is a very important thing. I think it's so necessary. It helps us. It helps us to understand. It's not wrong to grapple with something, because that has helped me to understand. You know, what is this? Is this something that only belongs to some people, that some people have access to and others not? And no, it is not. It is a universal thing.
Yeah, and I think that creates the curiosity.
Yeah.
So it creates a curiosity for me to go and find out. If somebody speaks from an exclusive point of view, and it might not be meant like that, it just comes across sometimes like that, is that then it creates curiosity for me, and to go and figure out what is that, or to go and experience it, that I can have understanding with myself, to be with that people. And if you travel across Africa, just in terms of what you just shared, which I've done for many decades, is and work there, is that you begin to realize that there's not such a big difference between all of us. Actually, we might think we are so different, but at the heart of it, we're all the same. Because again, if the being communicates and connects to the being beyond all the other things, there's no separation. There's not a feeling, but I'm different from you. And I also found it particularly in the relation between men and women on this specific continent, the way they relate to each other. That even when you make them aware of it, where you simply ask, what's happening now with you? Just feel into what's happening with you in this moment when you're with this other person. that you begin to understand this concept of the definition of the being part, and the becoming part that you're speaking about as well. And then
Yes.
people's relationship starts to change because they suddenly see, but it's another being in front of me, not a different gender that I need to treat in a specific way. It's another being. So for me, it dissolves all the borders that we created around, and boundaries around things like religion, sexual orientation, gender, race, culture, you name it, position, wealth. And once you are in that space, what we now speak about as oneness, so much more possibilities are able to emerge, which is to the benefit of all, not only one specific being or group of people, it's for everyone. But I'm curious, I want to go a little bit back again, when in the beginning when you spoke about humanities. So for the purpose of those who's engaging with us afterwards in this beautiful gathering, how would you explain what is the Humanities Team? What are they doing? What are their aspirations, or their vision, their intention? What is it about?
Yeah, so Humanities Team, as I said, the core principle is oneness. So we're saying we are awakening the world to oneness. And you know, again, we spoke in the beginning about, you know, being in the mind about oneness. The most wonderful thing about having been involved with Humanities Team is we realized right from the beginning that there was no such thing as, it's not about me who is okay wanting to change the world out there, but it is about changing the world and coming to the oneness through myself first. And that is why I say it has been the most incredible blessing to be involved with this, because when we started out, this oneness thing was only, you know, people actually only started talking about it. I think in 2008 when we created our Facebook page. In that first year, we had 1,000 people. So in 2008, 10 years later, there's almost 1 million people on the global Facebook page. So you can see, so what we are doing is we are gathering people around the flame of oneness. And you know, when you engage with people in that space, you realize, you know what, as you said, Hannelie, we're all human beings. So it's not like there's 1 million people in that space who are all, you know, enlightened beings. No, it's not like that. We're all human beings, you know, gathering around the flame of oneness, and all on our own level of consciousness. And as we know, you know, we also fluctuate in that. You know, it's every day is not the same. But we want to raise consciousness for the fact that we are all one. And as you said, oneness, and that does not mean that we're all the same, but it is, the question is, how do we, seeing that we are so diverse, how do we find ways to make it through together and not kill one another, and not, you know, not judge one another like that? You know, what does the greater good mean? All of those aspects that come into play. And as you know, we knew right from the beginning as well, also that oneness plays out in different spheres of life. So we can see how oneness is at play for somebody who's involved with the arts. So how's oneness at play in economics, which is a very important thing. As we see, you know, the influence that economics that goes astray, what influence that has on the world. So it's arts, economics, education, 12 of those spheres. So also in 2013, we started having a look at how can we identify how oneness is at play, how can we identify people and initiatives that are making a difference in those different spheres. So we share that with the world. So when we focus on what is working elsewhere in the world, we make it possible for the idea of oneness, for the consciousness of oneness to evolve and to grow into people. Yeah, I think, you know what, that's really, I think in a nutshell what Humanities is all about. So we've had the most incredible processes where we had to define, you know, in a sentence or in a statement, what oneness means to us. if I can remember it, we're saying oneness is the energy of love. Oneness is the energy of love that resides in everything. I'm going to find it. It's just the most beautiful, it's the most beautiful statement. So we developed a statement of oneness. We have 5 steps to peace, or we can say 5 steps to oneness. And all kinds of statements and things that we developed in Humanities Team to make it possible for us to work together as a team, as one as well. Because you can imagine to speak about oneness and to work together as a team about oneness, especially as you know, we are people coming from all walks of life, from all over the world, was not easy in the beginning. We had challenges. It was not easy, and the more and more we grew into our own understanding, not understanding, but our own being of understanding, the easier and easier it became. So you can imagine it's been really a very, very special, wonderful experience and journey.
Yeah, you know, when you speak about it, there are so many things that come up and that emerges. And the one is, you know, Aladdin's, I don't even know what you call it, where the genie comes out.
Oh yes, the DNA strand or whatever.
Yeah. I just saw that while you were speaking. And also, but I felt in my body, when you were speaking, a lot of heart energy. But it's very different heart energy that I usually feel. It's sort of, you know, usually when I feel heart energy, when somebody else speaks, it's concentrated to a specific part of my body. But this was a feeling of it all over my body, which is very interesting.
Oh,
which takes me also from what you just shared, and I maybe just want to share it in a different way of what you shared now, and my perception of it, and my physical experience about it, is that when we go into our own sense of oneness, the embodiment become the embodiment part of it ourselves, is much easier then for us to relate to other people and to do things with them, to co-create with them, to work with them, and to be with them. So it's like we are the center of it ourselves first.
Exactly.
And the more we become to embody it and to understand it ourselves, and in our own context and in the bigger context, it's then much easier for us to be with others and to relate to them.
So true. You know, the thing is, in oneness, you know, the world of spirituality is it's a complex one. And, you know, there are lots of people who want to throw everything out, you know, the baby with the bath water. So you can imagine, you know, when there are people on different levels of consciousness and you're working with oneness and you're not all on the same level, it can be very difficult to do things because, you know, for some things you'd have to be way in advance, you know, to, you know, live in a total free space, you know, where everything is allowed. It's like, I'm really very fond of Ken Wilber with his integral theory or integral approach or whatever. And when we look at the world and we see how on a great level things are going so haywire, and what I can see happening here is that there's a group of people who have advanced, but maybe have forgotten in a way about the ones that are behind. I'm thinking about the process that we did in 2002. It was a trilogy of workshops. The third one was you go out into nature for 6 days. It was called the Mile. And did you do that process?
Let me not speak about that now, but I knew it was the same stuff we did.
I mean, it just changed my life. It was just simply incredible. And I remember running the mile every morning. So when you run the mile, you focus on specific intentions for the day and so on. And one of the things was to consider that as you completing your race, as you completing your mile, there are others behind you. And for some of the other reasons, are you just going to leave them there on the road? Because some of the people, there were people like, for example, people with cancer, people really ill or whatever, who really wanted to complete those processes. So what you would do is you would go back and you would go run with them, you would go fetch them, you would go walk with them, you complete the race with the others. And I think that is the responsibility that we have, as you know, if you think that you have advanced in life, consciously or spiritually, we have responsibility to those, you know, who are like Neil Donald Walsh says, you know, sometimes people temporarily forget who they are, and how are we with those people? You know, do we just leave them behind, or do we, you know, do we wait for them? Do we wait for them to you know, to catch up? And I think this is our challenge, is to not if you run too fast, you know, we won't make it, because oneness is about connection. So if we break the connection, there can't be oneness. Just to be conscious of you know, remaining connected.
Now, we had a very interesting experience. During Joy Spring, we were chased away because the group didn't act out of oneness.
Say again, Hannelie.
During Joy Spring, it's the second one we're
Yes.
speaking about. Our group was the second one who ever have gotten chased away at that time, because the group could not hold a oneness energy. Because we had a very dark, very heavy group. Of 50 of the people, of the 50 of the 100 people didn't want to be there. They were there because their employer brought them. It was most traumatizing experience.
I know.
And I think that opened my eyes as well. For people might have very good intentions to send people away on such journeys, but if it's like psychology. If you don't want to sort yourself out, going to the psychologist will not help you. If somebody else made you do it, for example, to go to a therapist, it must come from within. But it opened my eyes in terms of diversity on such a deep level. You have this extraordinary experience, and the next moment you get chased away. But I'm glad I went through it. I did question for many years, why were I in that group? What was the purpose for me being in that particular group? To see this heaviness and this lightness at the same time. And to experience it very physical. It's not that you hear about, you're there, you're in the middle of it. And your anxiety to get the group together, and the facilitator still stops the process and say no more, because that group couldn't be held together. But I found it extraordinary, because we have delved into an experience which we call sense making, which I found fascinating. What happens when you apply it in groups where there's this variety of people's level of awareness. And when you don't focus on the issue as such, and you use other ways to sense into what's busy emerging, you'll be surprised by the insights that emerges from the collective consciousness within the group, because you stepped away as individuals.
Yes.
You're tapping into the collective, and you do it through very simplistic ways. Now, for example, there's this painting behind me. By simply showing somebody a visual, a group of people a visual, that has no connection to what you really want to explore together, and you allow them to sense in with all their senses, because we all sense differently as well. Different ones are activated, inner and outer, through what is coming through the collective towards us. So it's not trying to figure it out ourselves, because our own personal agendas then falls away magically. It's it's really like magic. And then when people begin to realize, then, my goodness, what's emerging here?
Yes.
I'm part of it. I'm not less than that other person. They're not more superior than me because their level of awareness is different than mine. And then the co-creative part that happens after that's extraordinary. Because, and I've seen this in the business environment, I've seen it in a conference environment where we've used the same, just we didn't call it as such, but we used the same principles to get people to work together, to envision together, and to sense in what actually is the collective telling us. And it's fascinating, the effect. So I'm really grateful that we are, as humanity, uncovering specific ways of getting beyond our mental constructs that we all have. We all have it. There's no one being, no, regardless of your level of awareness, doesn't matter. And it's regardless of how connected you are to the earth, to the planet, and to other people, and to yourself, doesn't matter. It's that we can go beyond it if we tap into the collective purposefully.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are moving into that we space, isn't it? So, and I think especially with the chaos that we see now, sometimes it really gets scary. But what I'm learning in all of this is, just it forces me to be quiet and just listen and just be. I think this is what I feel called to do, is just to be more quiet, speak less, listen more, not to add to the chaos. And as you saying, ask the question, what's really happening here? And I really believe, the bigger the chaos, the bigger the opportunity. It's like Neil Donald Walsh says, it's not like things are falling apart, but things are actually falling together. I really believe that. It is scary when things are, when you feel that there's no ground under your feet. But it's especially at that time, I think that we are called to just be quiet, take it slowly.
Yeah, I had a most beautiful experience yesterday, which taps into what you're just sharing. My Uber driver was from Zimbabwe, and as most people know, there's not nice things happening there at the moment. And we had a brief discussion about that. And then I also shared something similar to what you just shared, which I learned from somebody many moons ago, I don't even know who it was anymore, who said that to be able to make an omelette, you have to break the eggs. And for that matter, to eat any egg, you have to break the shell.
Exactly.
And I think that's busy happening in our world. Many things is dissolving and breaking up, which we perceive as chaos.
Exactly.
And creativity comes out of chaos, which we perceive as chaos. That's where the best creativity comes out. And like you said, I love the way you spoke about in terms of opportunity arising. That the bigger we perceive the challenge to be, it's our perception of it.
Exactly.
The bigger that is, the bigger is the opportunity. I love that, because in my experience, it's true. It's not just a theory. It's happening. You can take it into so many different spaces.
It is a truth. I think it's that, it's that pendulum swing. It's, one of the, so when, again, going back to Ubuntu there, so what I came across as I, into my research on Ubuntu, one of the things I wanted to know, so what are some, if we can say that there are rules for Ubuntu, so anyway, they speak, and these are the rules that it's rules that nature is guided by. So it's just the rhythm that we see in the universe, the rhythm that we see in the seasons of life. All of that we see, all of the rules that we see in nature. When we study those, we realize that so nature is not apart from me. So and since it is not apart from me, I can learn from what nature teaches me. And but I wanted to say something about rhythm now specifically. What were we talking about just before? What were you saying just before?
I was speaking about what's happening in Zimbabwe and the egg breaking up to make the omelette.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the things about Ubuntu is that it's, and oneness as well. It's impossible to happen if there's no openness. Openness and oneness and Ubuntu goes together, like one. So it's like you say, you have to, the egg has to be open. You have to break it open, to come to the core.
I love what you're sharing about openness. And it's very interesting when I feel in my body as you're sharing that. Because if we are full of stuff, whether it's ideas, our own opinions, our point of views, our frames of references, doesn't matter what it is, there's no place for oneness, because we are so full of the stuff. We have to be open-hearted and open-minded, both. Not only just one, both. Yes. And what do I mean by open-hearted? It's allowing others to be who they are, and to appreciate them for who they are, and to honor that they are here with me in this situation for a specific reason. Exactly. I'm not a victim to it, neither are they. But
Exactly.
to allow them to be who they are, I think that's one of the biggest gifts we can give people, is to allow them to be who they are and to appreciate them for that, and then to be open to different ways, because like Einstein also said, we don't get to solutions by doing the same thing over and over again.
Exactly.
But we're using the same old methods. But so something has to give, something has to come out for the cup to be empty.
Exactly.
And I think that's what people perceive as chaos. And that's what people perceive as painful. Because we're attached to it. We invested so much to our ideas and our opinions, our feelings, our emotions. We've invested so much in harboring them that now if somebody asks me to think of something in a different way, I need to give up that investment. And that's not so nice.
Absolutely. And also, you know what we think? We think Ubuntu is only light. No, it's not. Ubuntu invites us to recognize and to appreciate the dark, because the dark is the opportunity. There's no ways for you to see the light. You know, if all of this was light, we would not recognize ourselves. So, you know, if we go back to, to how some of the wisdom teachers explain, so God created another aspect of him or herself so that he or she could know and see him or herself. And that's really what it's all about. Change happens in context. It happens in contrast. So without that, we would never know or understand Oneness and Ubuntu, and our expectation of life would be totally, it doesn't work. It disappoints, because as you said earlier, it's about everything. Life is about all of this. Our challenge is how do we make it through in this space where there are so many things happening. And my answer to that is that it's to heal all those different levels. It's not to make all the different levels wrong, but to see more and more healing taking place on the different levels of consciousness, because all of those levels of consciousness are important. The one builds the other.
I love the way you're sharing about that, because it's also bringing things back into balance.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff happens, and I want to link it to the rhythm you spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
Because if there's rhythm in nature, and the closer our own physical rhythm, our own personal ones, get to the frequency of the Earth's vibration,
yes,
the more in resonance we are with our planet, with all creatures and all living beings, nature, everything. And harmony is something that I want to also bring into this conversation.
Yes.
Because in my experience, people perceive harmony to be the same things. It's not. It's very different things. Just think of an orchestra. There's different instruments playing together to create the most beautiful rhythms and tones. But they're all different. If they were all the same, I think it's our attachment to sameness that creates people to be intolerant, to be unforgiving, and those type of things. Because somebody must be exactly like me, they must think exactly like me, but that's not harmony.
Yeah.
That's not harmony. Harmony is different things coming together, and each have their place. And like you now speak about light and dark. Dark can be perceived in many different ways, especially in different contexts. I think the dark we are speaking about might be very different from what other people perceive dark to be. But it's simply, for me, the things that are out of balance. Yeah. Whether it's in myself, firstly, or whether it's in my relationships to others and to the world and to the planet. It's to bring balance back into whatever is. And when I'm close to the rhythm of the Earth's vibration from the frequency level, then I'm in relation to the rest of the universe, also in resonance. Yeah. I might not be aligned. I might do things that's not aligned. I might do things that's not coherent. But for me, the first step is that resonance part, which relates directly to the rhythm of the Earth. Absolutely. And to my own breathing. Yes. And for me, when I realize I'm out of touch with the universe and the planet's vibration and that of my my fellow humans and you women, it's when my breath becomes shallow.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think a lot of things that's happening in our world will be more clear for ourselves and more understandable when we begin to look at ourselves first in terms of the bigger context. But we're so easy to blame other people. We look outwards, what's wrong with them? What are they doing wrong? Instead of why am I overreacting in this situation? So because when I overreact to something else that's happening, somebody triggers me, it's something in me that I have to work on first.
Yes.
But we've been conditioned not to operate that way.
Exactly. Hannelie, we spoke about love earlier, and I think you will remember this from those personal transformation processes as well, as one of the big things that was a takeaway for me was the thought, the idea to say that at the core of everything is love. And you know what? Again, it's something that you can try and figure out with your mind, but there comes a day when you know that it's absolutely true. At the core of everything is love. So I can see, you know, a person, because it depends on your level of consciousness. Love is love, you know, whether you're killing somebody, you know, for some or the other reason. When you really keep peeling the onion, that person, you know, when they explain to you, the reason was love, whether it's a warped idea of love or not, it was love. I honestly believe at the core of everything is love.
And that's an energy.
It's the most powerful thing. It is love that makes the world go round. And obviously, again, it is about healing the different levels of love out there. Because everything is love, it's not okay to kill somebody. So what is there to be healed in my understanding of love? Africa is all about stories, and also my most favorite thing, one of the most favorite things that I came across in my research into Ubuntu, so it goes back into Kemetic cosmology, and so ancient Ethiopia, and the concept of Ma'at. So you can use those two words. You can interchange them. You can speak about Ma'at and Ubuntu. It's exactly the same thing. So when you look into that, you realize that Ubuntu is a feminine principle, and so it goes back. Ma'at is the ancient goddess of law, order, and justice. And you may recognize that she's depicted as having a feather in her headband. In one hand, she carries an ankh. So the feather is a symbol for truth or light, and the ankh in the one hand is the symbol for eternal life, and a scepter in the other hand is the symbol for power. So it is said that Ma'at, which she was not really alive, so it's an archetype, but it was her duty to determine if when a person dies, whether he or she will have eternal life or not. So her duty was, she had a scale, and so at the time of death, she would take a person's heart, put it on one side of the scale, and the feather on the other. And so for a person to have eternal life, to be at total peace, to be in total harmony, to know the truth about life is to have a heart as light as a feather. So the truth is love. And I think that is just, again, just another beautiful explanation of Ubuntu, what it takes to be a human being, to reach his or her highest potential, to be in nirvana, to be in total harmony, to be in total peace, to be in total truth about what life and being alive is all about.
Actually, sharing about this goddess, I remember now I don't know if it's a legend or what it is, but it's from the Ubuntu tribe in Africa. And I share this often with people, especially in the business context,
Yeah.
when we are speaking about how we relate to others. And I mean, it is shared as it's coming from the Ubuntu tribe as such as well. So the Ubuntu link is very clear there, is that before a baby is born, the women go out into the field and they wait till they hear the song of the baby.
Yeah.
And then once that little one's born, they sing that song to the baby. But for me, the most extraordinary part is the other times when they sing that song to the child. So when somebody do something wrong, as perceived from that society, the whole community will get together and they'll sing that song to them instead of punishing them or blaming them.
Exactly.
They sing their song for them to remind them of this sense of being
Of their
inside of
true essence, of
their
who they
true
really
are. And I was
are.
always asking, imagine.
Imagine.
And they also do it at other parts when they get married and when they come to age, all those type of
Yes.
rituals that they have. But the whole community comes to the center of the village and they're all singing to this human, this person.
Exactly.
And I was
Exactly.
always just asking, imagine, instead of us punishing each other when we perceive somebody did wrong, that they did something that we don't agree with, that, or where we see that they are forgetting this true essence of themselves,
Yes.
that is, instead of trying to give them advice of all sorts or pushing them away, we sing
Exactly.
their song to them.
Exactly. Exactly, Hannelie. I love that story as well. It is so powerful because I think that explains, really what this is all about. Is to see. There's a greeting that's so. I think you've heard this one as well. That I like to use it as an example of Ubuntu. The greeting Sawubona. Sawubona says, "I see you." It's like Namaste. I see you, and I'm present. I'm witnessing. I'm a witness to who you are. I see you from where you come from. I see where you are now, and I can see where you're going to. So it's a total witnessing and a total acceptance and a total acknowledgement of who we really are, especially when we forget, because we're human being. I remember I used to reject, when. So if people say, what is Ubuntu all about? One of the first explanations is it's about humanness. And I used to reject that. I think, but it's just too shallow. But you know what? I've really gone full circle with that. And Ubuntu is about, it is about our humanness, because it acknowledges that even though I think that I'm more enlightened, or that I have not done this, that, or the other, or because I've gotten this or the other degree, or because I've got lots of money, that I'm a better human being than another. No, Ubuntu teaches us that we are all human beings, and that as a human being, I'm deserving of that dignity, the dignity of being who I am, just, and full human being as I am, deserving of the best of respect.
Most beautiful.
Yeah.
Most beautiful. And for me, that is the biggest gift we can give to each other. We can buy each other all sorts of gifts and do sorts of all beautiful things for each other. But that is the one that I also truly believe, our own experiences, that the biggest gift we can give each other, and that is the essence of what will bring the human back into the world. And when I say that, I mean we've taken out the humanness out of everything, out of education, out of the business world, everywhere. We've taken it out everywhere. But that's the way we will bring it back. And for little ones, it's the biggest gift we can give them as well, to recognize their beingness and not try to make them a duplicate of ourselves, or what we couldn't achieve ourselves, is to recognize them first of all before we tell them anything else. It's the biggest gift we can give them. And that will raise, when we raise children and we guide them along the way, that will be the type of adult that we will raise as well. a young adult who's not insecure to try and find their place in this interesting, amazing world, but to have that recognition to step into the bigger world after education would be tremendous on a personal level and on a universal level.
Absolutely. It's such a common expression to say, love yourself. But this is the ultimate requirement. It's the ultimate requirement to love yourself first. It's not something that you're going to have to make. You're going to have lots of mistakes in life. You're going to forgive yourself often. You're going to have to go through many, many challenges to really come to a point. And that is, when you look at, especially when you've had a life where you've had some battles, and we all have battles. But I honor my battles because it has given me the opportunity to love myself, to forgive myself more and more, to love myself more and more, to have compassion for myself. As I have that, as I manage to do that for me, I'm able to do that for the other.
Well, thank you, Hannelie. This was most amazing. And I would love to invite you just to share, if you have, especially for our younger generations, a special message you have for them.
Yeah, my message, I think we live in a world where there's not much hope, isn't it? When we children leave school and there's no job for them. They look out there and they see there's lots of wars going on. And I think that's why it's important for us to transmit the story of Ubuntu to our young people. And I'm so happy, and when I see, when it comes to education, the concept of Montessori, or the teaching of the approach of Montessori, is so much in line with Ubuntu and with Oneness. So my advice to young people would be to, if ever they doubt about life, is to go out into nature. If they have a question about anything in their life, they can go speak to a tree. They can go listen to the river. They can just go stand out in nature and ask questions. And I know without a doubt the answer is there, because we are part of nature.
Thank you so much, Hannelie. We really appreciate that you've taken the time to be with us in this way today. And if it's okay with you, I would like to invite everyone who's engaging with us, who want to hear more about the Humanities Team and what they're doing, and want to experience Ubuntu, not only hear about it, to reach out to you, Annemarie, if that's okay. We will share your details afterwards in the podcast.
Thank you.
And we would also want to use this opportunity, and I feel it strong in my arms, to share a most beautiful blessing for you with your academy, your Ubuntu Academy.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the work you're doing, your passion, your life's work, the way, all the turns that it's taken to get you to this moment in time, we bless even that. And like you said, all your own strugglings, to where you get to this point that you can, at this moment in time, share this with the world, not only with this beautiful continent and its people. We want to take the time to just for a moment bless that.
Thank you, Hannelie.
And the knowing that the whole universe is behind you. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much again. It was a great honor for me to meet you in person in the first place, to spend an hour talking about our love for Oneness and Ubuntu, our African culture and spirituality, what it means to be a human being, and how we may make it through together. Thank you so much for the invitation. It was wonderful for me to be with you. Thank you for the blessing, and bless you too. Bless you for the wonderful work that you are doing.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.